The desert was alive with heat. Waves of sunlight shimmered across endless dunes, turning the golden sand into a vast ocean that stretched far beyond the eye. Near the base of the Great Pyramid, a small team of archaeologists worked tirelessly, brushing away sand, setting up instruments, and marking grids on the ground. Among them was Aaron, the youngest member of the group, his eyes filled with curiosity and determination. Aaron had dreamed of this moment since he was a child. He had grown up reading about ancient civilizations, about kings and builders who left behind wonders that had stood for thousands of years. Now he was here, standing where history itself breathed through every grain of sand. The leader of the expedition, Professor Nahir, was a man of wisdom and patience. He had spent decades studying the pyramids, searching for secrets buried beneath their massive stones. Many people believed that every chamber had already been found, every passage already mapped, but Nahir refused to accept that. He always said that the pyramids were not just monuments. They were puzzles, and only those who looked closely would find their hidden answers. That morning, Aaron's task was simple. He carried a ground scanner, a device that sent signals into the earth and read the shapes beneath the surface. For hours, he walked across the sand, following the instructions given to him. At first, the readings were as expected, solid stone and sand. But then, the scanner gave a strange sound, a rapid beeping that grew stronger near the pyramid's southern wall. Aaron stopped, his heart racing. "Professor," he called, his voice echoing in the dry air. "You need to see this." The professor hurried over, his long coat flapping in the wind. The other members of the team gathered around as Aaron showed them the readings. Beneath the limestone, where there should have been only solid rock, the scanner revealed an empty space. Not small, not a crack or a tunnel, but a chamber larger than any of them had expected. Professor Nahir's eyes widened. "This cannot be right. We have mapped this pyramid many times. No record speaks of such a chamber here." Aaron felt a thrill run through him. "But it is there. Look at the lines. It is hollow, and it is deep." The team set to work immediately. They dug carefully, removing sand from the base of the pyramid, searching for an entrance. Hours passed under the burning sun, until finally one of the workers struck something solid. Not rough stone, but smooth, carved limestone. Brushing away the sand revealed an outline of a doorway sealed long ago. The professor knelt beside it, his hands trembling slightly. "This is older than the other entrances. The builders wanted this hidden." It took the team several more hours to unseal the doorway. The air that escaped was dry and heavy, as though it had been trapped for ages. One by one, they lit their lanterns and prepared to step inside. Aaron was the first to enter. The passage was narrow and steep, the walls pressing close on either side. Dust clung to his skin and the sound of his footsteps echoed like whispers. His lantern cast long shadows, revealing strange carvings etched into the walls. At first, they seemed like ordinary symbols, but when he looked closer, he noticed they were different. "These are not the usual hieroglyphs," Aaron whispered. His fingers hovered above the lines without touching them. "They do not match any script I know." Professor Nahir examined the symbols and frowned. "You are correct. They are older, perhaps belonging to a time before writing as we know it. Keep your eyes open. This place may hold something unique." The passage opened into a vast chamber, so large that their lanterns could barely light its walls. The air was cooler here, almost alive with an energy that made the hairs on Aaron's arms rise. All around them, carvings glowed faintly as though they had been painted with light instead of pigment. Aaron stepped forward in awe. The carvings formed patterns, not words but shapes of the sky. He recognized stars, constellations, circles that marked the movements of planets. But as he studied them, his excitement grew into confusion. "These are not the stars we see from Earth," he said. "Look at this one. It is a cluster, but it does not appear in our skies. At least not like this. Professor Nahir studied the glowing patterns. His face was pale, his expression unreadable. You are right. These stars are real, but they can only be seen from far beyond our world. Whoever made these carvings knew of places we have not yet reached. The chamber grew silent. The team stood among the glowing walls, listening to the faint hum that seemed to echo from the stone itself. Aaron felt a strange pull, as if the chamber was not just a room, but a message waiting for them to understand. He could not shake the feeling that the pyramid was more than a tomb or a monument. It was a key, and they had just unlocked the first door. Professor Nahir broke the silence. We must be careful. We will record everything, but we cannot rush. Whatever lies ahead has been waiting for thousands of years. It can wait a little longer for us. But Aaron could not calm his excitement. The glowing symbols, the hidden chamber, the strange energy in the air, it was as if the past itself was reaching out to them. He felt certain that this discovery would change everything they thought they knew about history, about the builders of the pyramids, and perhaps about humanity itself. As the lantern light flickered against the ancient walls, the carvings seemed almost alive, as if watching the newcomers who had finally disturbed their silence. Aaron stood at the center of the chamber, his heart pounding, unaware that this was only the beginning of a mystery far greater than he could imagine. The chamber felt alive with a quiet energy. The faint glow of the carvings painted the walls in soft light, creating shadows that seemed to move even when no one did. The team stood silently, their eyes wide with amazement, as if they were standing in the middle of a dream. Aaron moved closer to the carvings, his lantern casting a steady beam over the glowing lines. He traced the shapes in the air with his finger. They formed star patterns, but none that matched the constellations he had grown up learning. He had studied maps of the night sky since his school days, yet these symbols showed arrangements that were foreign, shifted, as if viewed from a very different place. These are maps, Aaron whispered. His voice carried softly across the chamber. Maps of stars. But they are wrong for our sky. Professor Nahir joined him, bending closer to the wall. His eyes moved carefully from symbol to symbol, and his hands shook slightly as if he already understood the importance of what he was seeing. You are correct, he said after a long pause. These are constellations, but they are not from the Earth's viewpoint. Look at this one. It resembles Orion, yet the stars are aligned differently. That can only mean one thing. Whoever carved this saw the stars from somewhere else. The words made the chamber feel even colder. The other members of the team exchanged uneasy looks. It was difficult enough to imagine a hidden chamber inside the Great Pyramid, but the idea that its walls carried maps of skies unseen by human eyes was beyond belief. Aaron could not look away. He pointed to another carving, a circle with several dots inside it. The circle was ringed by smaller lines that looked almost like orbits. This looks like a solar system, Aaron said. A star with planets around it? But it is not our system. Professor Nahir touched his beard and stared at the glowing image. His voice was heavy when he spoke again. If that is true, then these symbols are not only older than we thought, they also show knowledge far beyond what ancient people should have known. The chamber filled with a tense silence. The only sound was the faint hum that seemed to vibrate through the stone. Aaron stepped back and looked around at the walls, realizing that the entire chamber was covered in these strange maps. Each wall showed a different section of the sky, some familiar but changed, others entirely alien. The youngest worker in the group, a quiet man named Lauren, finally spoke. Could it be possible that this was a kind of teaching place? Maybe the builders wanted to show their people how the sky looked long ago. Professor Nahir shook his head. No. The changes are not simply from time. They are from position. These are skies seen from a place far from Earth. Perhaps even from another star system. Whoever carved these knew how to look beyond this world. Aaron felt a chill that had nothing to do with the air. He remembered the stories he had read about the pyramid builders, how they were said to be masters of stone and alignment, placing monuments in line with stars. But this was different. This was not alignment. This was understanding. It was as if the builders had once stood among the stars themselves. The professor began taking notes quickly, sketching the symbols on his pad and marking their positions. He spoke in a steady voice, though his hands trembled. We must document everything. This is not only history. It is knowledge that should not have been possible. Aaron helped him, drawing the circles and constellations with care. But even as he worked, his thoughts raced. If the carvings showed skies from other places, then who had carved them? Were they humans who had somehow seen beyond their world? Or had someone else come and shown them these stars? His heart beat faster as the thought settled in his mind. The idea was almost too large to accept, yet it seemed to whisper through the chamber. What if the pyramids were not only tombs, not only monuments, but messages left for the future? The team explored further into the chamber. On the far wall, Aaron discovered something different. It was a large carving, taller than a man, shaped like a doorway but sealed in stone. Around it, the glowing symbols formed a ring of stars and planets. At the center of the carving was a figure, not human but not entirely alien either. Its form was tall, with arms stretched wide, as if welcoming or warning. Aaron called the professor over. This one is different. It feels important. The professor studied the carving carefully. His eyes narrowed, and he reached out to touch the glowing lines. The stone was warm under his hand. This may be the key, he said. Perhaps this doorway leads further, and the symbols around it are not just decoration but instructions. Aaron stared at the figure, feeling the weight of its gaze even though it was only stone. Do you think there is another chamber beyond this? I believe so, the professor replied. The builders were masters of hidden passages. But this is different. This is not like anything we have seen before. The rest of the team gathered around the carving. Some of them whispered nervously, wondering if it was safe to try and open the sealed doorway. The professor calmed them with a firm voice. We must move with patience. We will not force this. The pyramid has stood for thousands of years. If this has waited that long, it can wait a little longer for us to understand it. Still, Aaron felt his heart pulling him forward. He could not explain it, but the chamber seemed to speak to him, as if the walls themselves wanted him to see, to learn, to uncover what lay beyond the sealed door. That night, when the team returned to their camp outside, Aaron could not sleep. The stars above the desert glittered like jewels against the black sky. He stared at them for hours, comparing them in his mind to the glowing maps inside the chamber. He saw the difference clearly now. The stars of Earth were only one view among countless others. As the cool night air wrapped around him, Aaron whispered to himself, the builders knew. They knew something we are only beginning to learn. He closed his eyes, but the image of the tall figure carved into the stone would not leave him. It stood in his thoughts like a silent guardian, watching, waiting for him to return. And deep in his heart, Aaron knew this was only the beginning. The sun rose slowly over the desert, painting the sand in shades of gold and red. At the camp near the Great Pyramid, the team prepared for another day of work. Aaron had barely slept. The glowing carvings of stars and the tall figure carved into the sealed doorway filled his thoughts. He could not shake the feeling that something was waiting for them behind that wall. Professor Nahir called the team together after breakfast. His voice was calm but carried a tone of importance. Yesterday we discovered something remarkable, perhaps the greatest find of our lives. But we must move with caution. The sealed doorway in the chamber was not meant to be opened easily. The builders left it hidden for a reason. If we try to force it, we may lose everything. The workers nodded, but Aaron noticed the excitement in their eyes. Everyone felt the same pull he did, the sense that they were standing at the edge of a mystery older than history itself. They returned to the chamber with their lanterns and tools. The air inside was as heavy as before, carrying that strange hum that seemed to live within the stone. Aaron led the way to the sealed doorway, his heart beating faster as he stood once again before the tall figure with arms outstretched. The professor studied the glowing symbols that circled the doorway. "These are not random," he said. "They are arranged with purpose. Perhaps they are instructions, or perhaps a kind of code." Aaron looked closely. The stars and lines formed patterns that almost resembled a puzzle. "Maybe it is not about breaking through," he said. "Maybe it is about solving something." The professor nodded. Yes. The builders were clever. They did not simply hide their secrets with stone. They left challenges for those who would try to enter. With patience, they began to examine the carvings. Aaron traced the constellations with his finger, comparing them to the notes they had taken the day before. Slowly, he began to notice that some of the stars in the ring around the doorway matched patterns elsewhere in the chamber. "Look," he said, pointing. "This group of stars appears again on the opposite wall. Maybe we need to connect them somehow." Professor Nahir's eyes lit up. "You may be right. The builders wanted us to see relationships, not only shapes." As they worked, the symbols began to respond. When Aaron placed his hand on one of the glowing stars, the light grew brighter, spreading like liquid through the carved lines. The chamber seemed to vibrate, as if the pyramid itself was aware of their actions. The team stepped back in awe. The sealed doorway trembled slightly, dust falling from its edges. A sound echoed through the chamber, deep and resonant, like the beating of a drum. "Careful," the professor warned. "Do not rush. One wrong move could end this." But Aaron felt strangely calm. It was as if the chamber was guiding him, urging him forward. He placed his hand on another star, one that matched a pattern on the far wall. Again the light spread, brighter this time, until half the symbols around the doorway were glowing. The hum in the chamber grew louder, and then, without warning, the sealed doorway began to shift. Stone panels slid aside with smooth precision, as though they had been waiting for this moment for thousands of years. Behind the doorway was a dark passage. The air that flowed out was cold, carrying with it a metallic scent unlike anything in the rest of the pyramid. The team hesitated, unsure whether to step inside. "Lanterns up," the professor ordered, his voice firm but trembling with wonder. "We go together." They entered slowly, the passage leading downward at a gentle angle. The walls here were different. Instead of rough limestone, they were made of smooth blocks fitted so perfectly that not even a strand of hair could pass between them. Strange markings ran along the surface, not carvings this time but thin lines of metal that shimmered faintly in the lantern light. Aaron's eyes widened. "This is not like anything I have seen in Egyptian architecture. These walls are too precise. Too perfect." The professor agreed, his voice low. "It is as if another hand helped build this. Something beyond the knowledge of the time." The passage ended in a large circular chamber. In the center stood towering constructs, half stone and half metal, shaped like statues but far too intricate to be only decoration. Their bodies were carved with lines that glowed faintly, pulsing like veins of light. The team froze in silence. The constructs were tall, taller than two men, with broad shoulders and long arms. They stood in rows, motionless, as if guarding the chamber. "Are they statues?" one of the workers whispered. Aaron stepped closer, though his heart pounded in his chest. He reached out carefully and touched the surface of one. It was cold and smooth, more like metal than stone. The moment his hand made contact, the chamber came alive. Light surged through the walls, racing along the metal lines and into the bodies of the constructs. One of them shifted, its head rising slowly, its eyes glowing with a deep golden light. The sound of grinding stone and humming metal filled the air as the construct stepped forward. The workers cried out and stumbled back, some dropping their lanterns in fear. Aaron froze where he stood, unable to move, his eyes locked on the glowing figure. Then a voice filled the chamber. It was deep and resonant, echoing from the walls and from within the construct itself. The language was strange, but somehow they understood it, as if the words reached not only their ears but their minds. "You who enter this place," the voice said. "You stand before the trial of guardians. Speak. Has your kind grown worthy?" The professor swallowed hard, his face pale. He stepped forward, raising his lantern high. "We are seekers of knowledge. We come with respect. We mean no harm." The construct's golden eyes glowed brighter. "Respect is not enough. Knowledge is not enough. Worthiness must be proven." The floor beneath them shifted. Sections of stone slid away, revealing pathways that twisted and changed shape before their eyes. Beams of light shot across the chamber, forming barriers and mazes. Aaron felt the ground tremble beneath his feet. He realized with sudden clarity that this was no ordinary discovery. The builders had not only left behind messages. They had left a challenge, a test. The construct stepped aside, its voice booming once again. "If you wish to learn the truth, you must face the trial of light. Only then shall you be judged." The team stood together, staring at the shifting labyrinth that now filled the chamber. Fear and wonder mixed in their hearts. Aaron clenched his fists and took a deep breath. He knew there was no turning back. Whatever secrets lay beneath the pyramids, they were now bound to uncover them. The chamber was no longer silent. The labyrinth of glowing walls shifted constantly, and the air was heavy with the sound of stone sliding against stone. Aaron and the team stood at the edge, their lanterns flickering as the golden light from the guardian filled the room. The construct remained still, its glowing eyes locked on them. Its voice echoed with authority. "The trial of light will test you. If you pass, the knowledge of those who came before will be revealed. If you fail, this place will remain sealed for another age." Aaron's chest rose and fell quickly. He could not believe what he was hearing. It was as if the pyramid itself had come alive. He glanced at Professor Nahir, who held his lantern high, his face set with determination. "We cannot turn back now," the professor said firmly. "This is a gift of history, perhaps a gift for all humanity. We must see it through." The team stepped carefully into the labyrinth. The glowing walls towered above them, shifting into new paths as they moved. Beams of light cut across the corridors, forcing them to duck, crawl, or find new routes. The maze seemed alive, watching their every move. Aaron led the way, his eyes sharp, his mind racing to find patterns in the glowing lines. Sometimes the walls closed behind them, leaving no way back. Sometimes a beam of light blocked the passage until someone touched the correct star symbol on the wall, making the barrier vanish. The test was not only about strength but also about patience, logic, and trust. When the team grew anxious, Aaron encouraged them. When the professor grew tired, Lauren helped him steady his lantern. Slowly, step by step, they worked together. Hours seemed to pass inside the maze. Their clothes were damp with sweat, and their hearts pounded with fear and hope. Finally, after one last turn, the walls opened to reveal a large circular platform at the center of the labyrinth. The construct guardian appeared again, stepping forward with heavy, echoing steps. Its eyes glowed brighter than before, and its voice filled the chamber once more. "You have faced the trial together. You did not abandon each other. You did not seek selfish gain. You are ready to learn." The walls of the labyrinth dissolved, sinking back into the floor as if they had never existed. The platform lit up with streams of light that formed shapes in the air. Stars appeared above them, spinning slowly, forming galaxies and constellations. The team gasped in wonder, their lanterns no longer needed. Aaron's eyes shone as he whispered, "It is a map of the universe." The guardian raised one massive arm, and the stars shifted until a bright cluster appeared at the center. Around it circled several planets, glowing softly. Long ago, the guardian's voice said, visitors came from among the stars. They were travelers, seekers, and teachers. They came not to rule, but to guide. They gave knowledge of stone, of stars, and of life. With their help, your ancestors raised monuments that could stand the test of time. The glowing images showed scenes of tall figures walking among humans. They helped lift stones with beams of light, they taught the people to measure the heavens, and they carved messages into the walls of the pyramid. The figures did not look like gods or kings, but wise travelers who worked beside the people instead of above them. Aaron's breath caught in his throat. They were real. The stories were true. Professor Nahir's hands shook as he held his notes. If this is true, then human history is far greater than we imagined. We were not alone. We were guided. The Guardian continued. The visitors saw great potential in your kind. But they also saw danger. Power without wisdom can destroy. So they left, sealing their gifts behind trials, to be opened only when your people could prove they were ready. The glowing stars shifted again, forming the image of the pyramid itself. Inside it, the chamber glowed brightly, showing the very room where the team now stood. This place is one of many, the Guardian said. Across the earth, others remain hidden, waiting. Each holds knowledge, but only those who are worthy may unlock it. The images faded slowly, leaving only the glowing platform beneath their feet. The Guardian lowered its head, as if bowing. You have passed the first test, it said. But more will come. What you choose to do with this knowledge will shape your future. The visitors gave you the path, but you must walk it. Silence filled the chamber again. The golden light dimmed, and the Guardian stood still once more, as if it had returned to sleep. The team stood together, unable to speak at first. The weight of what they had witnessed pressed heavily on their minds. The professor was the first to break the silence. His voice was quiet but steady. This is not just history. This is a message for all humanity. We have always wondered if we were alone. Now we know we were not. But we must be careful. If this truth is revealed too quickly, it may cause fear instead of hope. Aaron listened, his thoughts racing. He felt proud that humanity had been chosen long ago, that their ancestors had been trusted with such a gift. But he also felt the burden of responsibility. The knowledge was powerful, and like the Guardian had said, power without wisdom could destroy. Lauren spoke softly. What should we do now? Do we tell the world? Or do we keep the secret? The professor shook his head. We must record everything. But we must also protect it. The world is not yet ready for such a revelation. When the time comes, when humanity shows it is ready to use this knowledge wisely, then the truth can be shared. Aaron looked once more at the Guardian, its golden eyes now dim. He felt as though it was still watching him, silently reminding him of the choice ahead. The chamber was no longer just a discovery. It was a promise, and a test of character for all who entered. As the team made their way back through the passage, Aaron glanced over his shoulder one last time. The platform still glowed faintly, the stars etched into his memory. He knew that what they had learned would never leave him. The forgotten visitors had trusted humanity once, and now it was up to them to prove that trust had not been wasted. The desert outside greeted them with bright sunlight, but Aaron felt different as he stepped into the open air. The world seemed larger now, the sky above him filled with secrets waiting to be uncovered. And deep in his heart, he knew this was not the end of their journey. It was only the beginning. The desert sun was setting when the team returned to camp, but no one felt tired. Their minds were too alive with the memory of what they had seen. The Guardian's words repeated in their thoughts like an echo: humanity must prove its worth. That night, Aaron could not sleep. He sat near the lantern in the camp, staring at the pyramid as the moonlight bathed its stones in silver. The image of the labyrinth and the glowing stars above the platform would not leave him. More than anything, he kept hearing the guardian's warning. Respect is not enough. Knowledge is not enough. Worthiness must be proven. The next morning, Professor Nahir gathered the group. His face was serious but steady. We have seen what no one else has seen. But the guardian made it clear there are more trials ahead. If we are to truly understand the secrets hidden here, we must face them. The workers exchanged uneasy looks. Some of them feared what might come, but none wanted to walk away after coming so far. Aaron felt his chest tighten with determination. We will face it together, he said. The visitors gave us this chance. We cannot fail them. The professor nodded. Then we returned to the chamber. The team entered once more through the hidden passage. The air inside seemed colder than before, and the hum in the walls stronger. When they reached the circular chamber, the guardian's eyes flickered open again. Golden light filled the room, and its deep voice rang out. You return. Then you are ready. The trial of light begins now. The floor trembled beneath their feet. Stone panels shifted and rose, forming walls that surrounded them once more. Beams of light cut across the chamber in straight lines, crisscrossing the maze like glowing blades. Unlike before, the maze was larger and more complex. The paths twisted in many directions, some ending in sudden barriers of light, others leading into darkness. The guardian raised its arm. This trial will test not only your strength but also your unity. Alone, you will fail. Together, you may succeed. Aaron felt a shiver run down his spine. He looked at the professor, then at the others. He knew this was no ordinary puzzle. This was a test designed to judge the heart of humanity. They stepped into the maze. The glowing light forced them to move carefully. Some beams were low, requiring them to crawl beneath, while others stretched high above, creating passages they had to climb to reach. The heat of the light was real. It burned faintly when they came too close, warning them of the danger. At first, the team moved cautiously, each person trying to find their own way. But soon the paths became confusing. The walls shifted, closing behind them and opening new passages ahead. Those who tried to move alone became trapped quickly, blocked by barriers with no way forward. Aaron realized the truth. It is not meant to be solved alone, he said loudly. We must work together. The professor agreed. Call out your paths, guide each other. If one finds a symbol, share it. They began to coordinate. When Aaron discovered a glowing star symbol on a wall, he called the others to press the same star where they stood, and the barriers shifted open. When Lauren found a dead end, he warned the group before they wasted time. Slowly, the maze began to change in their favor. The trial grew harder as they advanced. At one point, the floor opened into a wide gap, with only narrow beams of stone crossing over. The light beneath shimmered like fire. The team hesitated, but Aaron encouraged them. One at a time. We will hold each other steady. With trembling steps, they crossed, helping each other balance until they were all safe. Another time, walls closed around them in a circle, trapping them. The air grew heavy, and the light pressed down on them. For a moment, fear spread through the group. But the professor remained calm. Look for the pattern. There is always a way. Aaron searched the walls and noticed 3 symbols glowing faintly. He pressed them in order, and the circle dissolved, freeing them. Relief filled their hearts, and their trust in each other grew stronger. The deeper they went, the more the maze tested not only their minds but their unity. The team learned to rely on each other's strengths. The professor gave wisdom, Aaron gave courage, Lauren gave patience, and the workers gave strength. Together, they faced each challenge. Finally, after what felt like hours, the maze opened into a grand hall. The walls shone brighter than ever, and the ceiling above sparkled like a sky filled with stars. At the center stood a second platform, larger than the first, with a tall crystal rising from its middle. The crystal pulsed with light, casting waves of energy through the chamber. The guardian appeared once more, its golden eyes watching them. You have faced the trial and remained united. You did not abandon one another. You showed trust, courage, and wisdom. This is the strength that the visitors saw long ago. This is why they chose your kind. The crystal glowed brighter, and the air around them vibrated with a deep hum. Images formed once again, scenes of the visitors walking the earth, sharing knowledge and guiding the building of monuments. But this time the vision showed more. It revealed a world far from Earth, a planet with oceans and mountains under a different sky. Strange towers rose from its surface, glowing with the same light as the crystal. Figures moved among them, tall, graceful beings who looked like the visitors. They worked in harmony, their cities shining like jewels across the land. Aaron gasped softly. It is their home. They are showing us where they came from. The professor's voice trembled. This is the greatest discovery in human history. We are seeing the origin of those who guided us. The vision shifted again. It showed the visitors leaving their world in great ships of light, traveling across the stars until they reached Earth. They met humans, guided them, and built the pyramids as both a monument and a vault of knowledge. But then the images darkened. The visitors stood in council, their faces solemn. They sealed their knowledge inside the monuments, leaving guardians behind. Their message was clear: humanity must grow first, and only then would it be ready to inherit the gift. The vision faded, and the crystal dimmed. The guardian's voice echoed once more. You have proven yourselves in the trial of light. But the final test remains. When the time comes, your kind must choose how to use what is given. If you choose selfishness and destruction, the gift will vanish. If you choose wisdom and unity, the gift will endure. The golden light in the chamber slowly dimmed, and the guardian became still again. The trial was over. The team stood silently, their hearts filled with awe and weight. Aaron looked at the professor, his voice quiet. We saw their world. We saw their journey. This is more than history. This is our responsibility. The professor placed a hand on his shoulder. Yes. And we must carry it with care. As they left the hall and stepped once more into the desert night, the stars above seemed brighter than ever. Aaron stared at them, knowing now that humanity's story was tied to those distant lights. And deep inside, he felt certain that the greatest test was still to come. The desert was silent as the team returned from the trial chamber. The stars above stretched endlessly across the night sky, and the moon cast long shadows across the sand. None of them spoke at first. Their hearts were heavy with awe after the visions they had seen. Aaron lay awake outside his tent, staring at the stars. His thoughts returned again and again to the image of the visitor's world. Oceans glowing in the light of another sun, towers rising like mountains of crystal, ships sailing across the stars. For the first time in his life, he felt certain that humanity was not only part of Earth, but part of something far greater. At dawn, Professor Nahir called the group together. His voice was calm, though his face showed the weight of responsibility. The guardian spoke of a final test. I believe the trial of light has prepared us, but there is still more waiting within the pyramid. We must continue. The team returned to the hidden passage, carrying lanterns and tools. Their steps echoed through the narrow corridor as they moved deeper into the pyramid. When they reached the trial chamber again, the guardian did not stir. Its golden eyes remained dim, as if its task was complete. But the crystal platform at the center of the chamber glowed faintly, casting a path of light that led toward another wall. Slowly, with a deep rumble, a hidden doorway opened before them. Cool air drifted out, and a narrow staircase descended into the darkness. Aaron's chest tightened with excitement. He lifted his lantern high. This must be it. The vault. The professor nodded. Be careful. This may be the inheritance the visitors spoke of. Step by step, they descended. The walls here were different again, smoother than any stone they had seen, as if carved by tools far beyond human hands. Faint lines of silver ran along the surface, glowing softly like veins of light. The air grew cooler the deeper they went, carrying a strange hum that seemed to vibrate inside their bones. At last, the staircase opened into a vast chamber. The team stopped in their tracks, their lanterns barely able to capture the scale of what lay before them. The chamber stretched wide and tall, its ceiling vanishing into shadow. At its center stood a great structure, half crystal and half metal, pulsing with steady light. Around it were smaller objects arranged in perfect order, resting on pedestals that shone faintly in the dark. Aaron felt his breath catch. This is not just a chamber. This is a vault. They stepped forward carefully. Each pedestal held an object unlike anything they had seen. One looked like a small sphere, glowing faintly, humming with energy. Another was a flat panel that shifted colors across its surface like water. Others were rods of crystal, boxes of smooth stone, and tablets covered in strange markings. None of them looked broken or old. They seemed as if they had been placed there yesterday, preserved perfectly through time. Lauren whispered, his voice trembling. These are not artifacts. These are machines. The professor's eyes glistened with awe. Yes. Technology. Left here as an inheritance, waiting for those who could prove themselves. Aaron approached the central structure. Its surface shimmered like metal, but when he touched it, it was warm, almost alive. At his touch, the structure pulsed brighter. A sudden wave of light filled the chamber, and once again, an image appeared above them. The visitors stood together, tall and graceful, their faces calm. One of them stepped forward and spoke, though no lips moved. The words entered the minds of the team directly, clear and steady. You have reached the vault. Long ago, we walked among your ancestors. We saw strength, but we also saw weakness. We knew your kind was not yet ready for the power we carried. So we left a path, hidden in stone, guarded by trials. You have walked that path with unity. Now you stand before the inheritance. The image shifted to show the objects in the chamber, glowing brighter. These are seeds of knowledge. Each holds the power to change your world. With them, you may create energy without end, heal sickness, shape matter, and travel beyond the sky. But be warned, these gifts can also destroy if used without wisdom. The image faded, leaving the chamber in silence once more. The objects continued to hum softly, waiting. Aaron's heart pounded. He could almost feel the power radiating from the vault. It was more than history. It was a promise, left by beings who had trusted humanity's future. The professor turned to the team. His voice shook with the weight of the decision before them. We have found the inheritance of the visitors. But the Guardian's warning was clear. This is not simply treasure to take. It is responsibility. If the wrong hands discover this, the world may suffer. Lauren's eyes flickered between fear and hope. So what do we do? Do we take it with us? Do we show it to the world? Silence hung heavy in the chamber. Aaron looked at the glowing objects, imagining what they could mean for humanity: an end to hunger, to war, to sickness. But he also imagined what would happen if they were misused, if greed and ambition twisted the gifts into weapons. Finally, Aaron spoke. His voice was steady. Maybe we are not ready to use these things yet. The visitors sealed them for a reason. They wanted us to learn, to grow, before holding such power. If we reveal it now, it could destroy us instead of helping us. The professor nodded slowly. I agree. We will not take anything from this vault. We will record it, guard it, and ensure it is not lost. But the world is not ready for this knowledge. One day, perhaps, when humanity is wiser, the inheritance can be shared. Until then, it must remain hidden. The team bowed their heads in agreement. None of them wanted to see such wonders wasted or turned into harm. Before leaving, Aaron walked once more to the central structure. He placed his hand upon it, and for a brief moment, he felt warmth spread through him, like the touch of a guiding hand. A voice, soft and faint, entered his mind. Guard the gift. Its time will come. He stepped back, his heart filled with both pride and burden. The team ascended the staircase in silence, carrying no objects but carrying a responsibility far heavier. When they reached the desert once more, the sunlight felt different. The pyramid behind them no longer seemed only a monument. It was a guardian, holding secrets that could one day change the fate of the world. Aaron looked at the horizon, the wind brushing across the endless sand. He knew their discovery would remain hidden, but he also knew its memory would live within him forever. The inheritance was real, and when humanity was ready, it would return to claim it. The sun rose slowly above the desert, casting golden light across the endless dunes. The camp was quiet, but in the hearts of the team there was no rest. Each person carried the weight of what they had seen in the vault. The knowledge of the visitors, the inheritance of humanity, was real. And now it was their responsibility. Aaron stood near the pyramid, watching its ancient stones glow in the morning light. To him, the pyramid no longer looked like a tomb or a monument. It looked like a guardian, keeping its secrets safe through centuries until the right moment arrived. He thought of the words he had heard when he touched the crystal structure, guard the gift. Its time will come. Professor Nahir approached quietly and stood beside him. His face looked older than before, marked by the burden of truth. You are thinking about the vault, he said gently. Aaron nodded. It is hard not to. Those machines, that power, it could change everything. But it could also destroy everything. How can we guard something so great? How can we make sure it is never misused? The professor placed a hand on his shoulder. We guard it with silence. Not all secrets are meant to be revealed at once. One day, humanity will be ready. Until then, we must keep this knowledge safe. The rest of the team gathered soon after. Their faces showed the same mix of awe and fear. Lauren was the first to speak. So we agree then? No word of the vault, no word of the inheritance. We keep it hidden, even from our own people. A silence fell. It was a heavy decision. To hide such wonders was not easy. But one by one, they nodded. The responsibility was too great to risk. The professor raised his voice firmly. This is not about us. This is about all of humanity. We are only keepers of a secret that belongs to the future. We will leave no record that others can find too easily. We will protect the path, and we will teach those who come after us that knowledge without wisdom is danger. The team agreed, their hearts bound by the same promise. That night, before leaving the desert, they returned one last time to the trial chamber. The guardian remained still, its golden eyes closed, as if asleep. The crystal at the center pulsed faintly, watching but not speaking. The professor stepped forward and spoke aloud, though he knew the guardian might not answer. We have seen the inheritance. We have chosen to guard it. When humanity is ready, the gift will return to them. Until then, it will remain safe beneath your watch. For a moment, the crystal glowed brighter, as if acknowledging their words. Then it dimmed again, leaving the chamber in silence. The team returned to the surface and sealed the hidden entrance with stones, making sure no trace of their discovery could be found by chance. As they finished, Aaron looked back one final time at the pyramid. The stars were rising again in the night sky, and for the first time, he saw them not only as lights in the dark but as destinations. The journey back to the city felt long, but the weight of their secret traveled with them. In the city, people asked about their work, about what they had found. The professor answered only with simple words. We studied the stones. We found nothing more than history. No one suspected the truth. Days turned into weeks, and the team returned to their normal lives. But none of them were truly the same. Each night, Aaron found himself staring at the sky, remembering the visions of the visitors' world and their great ships crossing the stars. He knew the vault still waited, hidden beneath the pyramid, untouched and alive. One evening, Aaron visited the professor at his study. The room was filled with books and old maps, but the professor sat quietly by the window, looking out at the stars. "Do you ever wonder," Aaron asked softly, "if we did the right thing? Keeping it hidden?" The professor's eyes did not leave the sky. "Every day. But I also remember what I saw in the visions. The visitors did not give their gifts freely. They trusted that only in the right time would humanity be ready. We are still learning. We are still growing. If we rushed, we might destroy ourselves. So yes, I believe we did the right thing." Aaron thought about his words and felt a quiet strength grow in his heart. The secret was not a burden alone. It was also a promise. A promise that humanity would reach higher, grow wiser, and one day claim its place among the stars. Years passed, but the memory of the vault never faded from Aaron's mind. Sometimes he returned to the desert, walking near the pyramid, feeling the wind brush across the sand. He never entered again, but he always felt the silent presence of the guardian watching from within. One evening, as the sun set in crimson and gold, Aaron stood at the edge of the dunes and whispered, "We are not ready yet. But we will be. One day, we will come back, not as seekers of secrets, but as a people ready to inherit them." The stars rose above him, endless and bright. Somewhere out there, beyond the sky, lay the world of the visitors, waiting. And beneath his feet, hidden in the heart of the pyramid, lay the inheritance of humanity, sleeping until the day of awakening. The promise was clear. The gift would endure.